Hey, so what is going on, everyone? It is me, Mr. Mario, and today I'm going to be asking you, are Metal Gear games better with age, or specifically Metal Gear Solid games? Now, the reason why I'm making this video is because I'm aiming to release it prior to Metal Gear Solid 5 being released. I'm a bit excited about the game. I'm not really overhyping it or anything like that, because I don't really get hyped for games. I do have a copy of it pre-ordered. However, I'm probably not going to play it the first day. In fact, it would be cool if I could play it the first week it's out, but I don't even know if I'm going to do that. Reason being is that I wanted to pick up the collector's edition of it. I ended up finding it. It was available for a few hours on GameStop's site. This is a few weeks ago, and I pre-ordered it right there, but because of shipping and because of GameStop, I hated doing it through GameStop, I really did. But because of all that, I really wanted the collector's edition of it. I was able to get it. Only thing is, probably won't get it day one, but I'm more than likely going to do an unboxing of that on the channel here, so it'll be late, but I'm happy to have that. It will actually be my first Metal Gear Solid collector's edition of some kind, so that will be great. But going back to the original question and why I brought this up and everything, I'm not super excited for Metal Gear Solid 5. You know, a lot of people I know, they're really hyping it up right now. They're looking forward to it. You know, Konami's been releasing so many trailers and details and all that, and people are just trying to gobble up any type of leak they can. Not me, though. Mostly because I don't even think I'm going to enjoy the game that much when it comes out. Now, if I do enjoy the hell out of it, that'll be great. But here's the thing I've noticed for myself. I've noticed that for me, Metal Gear games, or Metal Gear Solid games specifically, as I said, they become better with age. In fact, this is one of the very few series out there that, to me, ages the best. Maybe not because of the graphics or the gameplay, but mostly because of the storyline. Because as you get older and wiser, you can understand it more, and then you even start seeing things that might not have even been relevant at the time. You know, for example, with all the NSA spying and everything, and so many government conspiracies that were put out, just things like that, you know, things that were leaked out a few years ago. When I replayed Metal Gear Solid 2 a few years ago, I'm just like, holy shit, was Kojima like trying to tell us this like 10 years prior or what? And even in addition to that, you know, when I played those games as a kid, I looked at them in a different way. Every time I play them, I look at them in a different way. And it's been each one I haven't liked that much. You know, at the beginning, very first Metal Gear Solid, I didn't really know what to expect. I thought it seemed cool when I was younger, but I hated, you know, the stealth mechanics on it. There was a lot of things I didn't like. I mean, I barely even got past the first level where you're sneaking out, because I was just horrible at games at the time. But, you know, I really didn't understand it, so I put it down. Metal Gear Solid 2 was the only game that I just initially liked off the bat. However, a lot of people disliked it, mainly because back when it came out and prior to its release, it was advertised with nothing but Snake, Solid Snake. And then the game comes out, and if you played Metal Gear Solid 2, the first 2 hours are Solid Snake. And then the tanker goes down, and after that you play as Raiden the whole time. And I think Konami really tried to just make Raiden a shitty character. For me, it didn't work. I was like one of the few Americans that actually liked Raiden, but most people outside Japan hated Raiden. But then Kojima even said, you know, no, it's going to be, he's going to be a better character. You're going to love him later on. People are like, nah, we hate Raiden. I mean, he even got to the point in Metal Gear Solid 3, which takes place between, like, before any of these other games, Metal Gear Solid 1 or 2, because you're playing as Big Boss at that point. There's actually a character in there who looks a lot like Raiden and acts like him, and, you know, they make fun of him, you know, because people were saying that he looked gay or he acted gay, so they made the character act gay in Metal Gear Solid 3. You know, they have him grab a character's crotch and all that stuff, and then they make a point of shaming him and all that. So, you know, they were really trying to appease the fans right there. But Kojima said, you know, Metal Gear Solid 4, you all are going to love him. And that's another thing. I really don't think, at first I didn't think this was going to be the last Metal Gear Solid game, but I really think it is at this point. You know, Metal Gear Solid 3, he said that was going to be his last one. Metal Gear Solid 4, Kojima said it was going to be his last one. Then Metal Gear Rising, he said he wasn't going to touch that. He started working on it. Metal Gear Solid 5, with all the stuff that has happened the past, like, few months with Konami, with, you know, Silent Hills being torn apart, PT being erased, they're trying to erase Kojima Productions and all that from everything, from titles and all that stuff. This really does look like this will be the last Metal Gear Solid game that Kojima touches, and that's really sad, you guys, because I love the series. But, you know, then even going on to Metal Gear Solid 4, personally, I didn't like it. When it first came out, I didn't play it because I didn't have a PS3. When I got a PS3, I wasn't really playing that many games. I know, ironic, isn't it? I got my first PS3 as an entertainment setup and server. That's all I got it for. But I played through the first level a little bit, when you're in the desert, and man, that was so boring, and I hated it. But then, a few years later with all these games, a few years later, I sat down, I played Metal Gear Solid 2 all the way through. I still loved it. Metal Gear Solid 3, I sat down, I played it all the way through. Honestly, a lot of people say this is their favorite game. I thought it was okay to good. I'm not saying anything bad about it, it's not my favorite. Metal Gear Solid 4, I sat through that, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best games I've ever played. But even the reason why I think other people might think that Metal Gear Solid is better with age is because, as I said, Metal Gear Solid 2, after we figured out that Kojima was pretty much trolling us with Raiden, people loved the game. Metal Gear Solid 1, I don't know if people were really complaining about it, but Metal Gear Solid 3, people seem to universally love right off the bat. Metal Gear Solid 4, as I said, one of the best games ever in my opinion. A lot of people criticize that because of the slow loading times of the PlayStation 3. You had to install the game. And in addition to all of that, people said that there was more cutscene than there was gameplay, which I think these people who made that complaint had never played a Metal Gear Solid game before. Starting from the first one, Kojima and, the whole team working on the Metal Gear Solid series were very reliant and loved having super long cutscenes in there. In fact, Metal Gear Solid 4 had one of the best features in any of the games, which was a pause function, which also worked within cutscenes, because trust me, you would need it. The final cutscene, the ending cutscene altogether in Metal Gear Solid 4 is an hour and a half. Pretty much the final cutscene in Metal Gear Solid 4 is a movie in itself. And I liked that. Now, I like a good story, and that's why I say I like coming back to these games because of the astounding story. Now, out of the main series, the only game I have not beaten was the first Metal Gear Solid. And reason being is that I've read so much about it, and, I watched the digital graphic novel, and I've seen so many references that I nearly know the story inside and out. So that's why, I'll still go back and play it. In fact, I restarted it recently. I played it for about 2 hours between flights and all that when I was coming back home, and, that is, oh my god. Game from 1998, still a genius game. I mean, some of the best stuff that happened in that game you can't ever replicate again, and that is because of the internet, really, the age we're in. I mean, the first Metal Gear Solid, first off, you had Psycho Mantis, honestly, my favorite supervillain of all time. He's not really even a villain. I mean, he's kind of a bad guy, of course he is, but just his backstory and all that absolutely blew my mind, and it made me feel sorry for him, honestly. But I think he's one of the coolest bad guys, in my opinion, the best bad guy ever. That's my opinion of Psycho Mantis. But he forces you to put your controller down on the ground, he makes it vibrate, he reads your memory card, and he mentions any Konami games that you have saved on there that you've been playing. And in addition to that, one big thing that I loved is when you are rescuing the second guy, I don't remember his name, but I think he's the president of Arms Tech. When you're rescuing him, he's going to give you Meryl's codec number, and he forgets it because he's some old dude. And then he says, oh, it's on the back of the CD case. And 1998, you gotta remember, this when most people had dial-up, if they even had internet, because internet really wasn't as much of a requirement as it is now. And in addition to that, a bunch of people who were in the United States or maybe even Europe and all those places were renting the game. So when he said it's on the back of the CD case, not only he directly told you that it was on the back of the Metal Gear Solid CD case, but the main thing was, that also screwed over a lot of people who were renting the game. So you either had to look it up online, do trial and error, or figure it out from a friend or somewhere like that. Find it out on the playground, unless you had that CD case where it's literally, you take the Metal Gear Solid CD case, flip it over, and you find Meryl's number on the back, and it's even hinted because it shows Snake and Meryl talking, and it just says Meryl's name right there. Stuff like that is ingenious, and you can't do it as much anymore, but even, for example, Metal Gear Solid 4, they had the whole big tribute to the old game. In Act 4, you go back to Shadow Moses. At the very beginning, Snake is having a dream that is a portioned off, emulated version of the original PlayStation 1 game running on the PlayStation 3. It even downgrades the resolution of your TV, and then you go through all the memories and everything, and when Psycho Mantis comes back in spirit, he tries to read your memory card and he can't because it's a PlayStation 3 and you have a hard drive. Like, stuff like that is just, it's so great to see that in there. And that's stuff that, you know, it's great there, but even when you look back on it, you value it even more. You're just like, you know, they really did some ambitious things there. Even with Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, just recently, you know, with this departure and all that, people played through the Deja Vu mission, and they said, wait a minute, I'll try and link the video down below if I remember, but they said, wait a minute, you know, Kojima and his team might have been hinting that they were going to be fired from this. And the reason being is that if you go around, there are logos with a bunch of the Metal Gear Solid games. So the main core games and the Metal Gear Acid, those ones, Snake is just like, or whoever you're talking to, I don't remember, it's not Snake, but they're just like, oh, that's nothing important. But with the other ones, they keep disappearing. And then there's a cryptic message if you make all the main logos disappear. But none of that made sense until this departure, until Kojima and Konami split up. And stuff like that, I mean, yes, it is a little bit far-fetched, but at the same time, I mean, they had to know about this stuff going on. The people who were developing had to know about this, you know, a year, maybe even 2 years before this game was coming out. It's not like it just happened, you know, a month ago or something, and everyone found out. No, this is something that's been going on and festering inside internally in Konami for quite a long time. But with stuff like that, with the storyline, with those Easter eggs, with everything like that, it's stuff like that that makes me value Metal Gear Solid even more, and to me, Metal Gear Solid is like the fine wine of video games. It's better with age, and every single time I replay a Metal Gear Solid game or go back to it, I enjoy it even more than the last time I played it, and that's really saying something for the game. It's not even one of those things where, for example, Grand Theft Auto 3, I fire it up, and because it's one of my it is my all-time favorite game, and I just love it to death, you know, I just have a bunch of fun with it. No, it's like, even if you give someone the first Metal Gear Solid right now, they would still be mind-blown at the depth and just the lovely craft that they put into this game. Those are really my thoughts on all this, and I hope Metal Gear Solid 5 can bring that to the table. Now, as I said, I'm probably not going to play Metal Gear Solid 5 on release. I might play it the week of release, but honestly, if I have to put Metal Gear Solid 5 on the shelf for a year, 2 years, hell, maybe even 3 years, and then I come back to it and I enjoy it, so be it. Metal Gear Solid 5 is one of those games I'm willing to hold on to it, and I'm willing to wait to play it. But who am I kidding? When the game comes out, I'm going to be playing it anyways. It's just, I feel like I will be enjoying it more in 2 or 3 years as opposed to 2015. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. Let me know what you all think of this, if you all are Metal Gear Solid fans and you kind of think the same way, or you just think I'm completely crazy, or if there's any other games like that that are with you like that. And it's not even, as I said, it's not a nostalgic thing at all. It's just, the game itself just seems to get better over the years. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario, signing off for real this time. Thank you for watching, everyone.